Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Malthaus Games podcast. My name is Delton. I'll be your host today, and with me, as usual, is my lovely wife and yellow player, Haley.
Hello, y'all just missed the noon NATO.
We did. We had the noon tornado sirens. If you are not from, I would say, just the Midwest, you probably don't know, but we have giant sirens that go off anytime there's a tornado, or what are the other scenarios?
Mostly tornadoes. Those are tornado sirens.
They are, but can't they? Isn't there another way? It's like tornado is this sound, and then there's like national emergency. Don't they use them for those?
Oh, not to my knowledge, but I
I
could
don't
be
know.
wrong.
Anyway, if there's a tornado, they blow the sirens and you will hear it. So they test them every Saturday at noon to make sure they are in working, functioning condition. And we're used to it, always have been. If you're not from this area, you're going to be like, what is happening right now?
Right, because it sounds very ominous. It's
The closest thing...
I
The
do it right?
closest thing that I can think of is like raid sirens, like you
Yeah.
see in like World War II movies.
Oh, that's
when
exactly what it sounds like as raid sirens.
And so if you're not used to that, you might freak out a little, but we're used to it. We had to wait on that to stop so we could start recording. We were like,
Right.
we're ready to go. Oh,
Like,
there's the new
Literally,
NATO.
Delton was about to hit record and it goes.
And then it came back because it does it does it 2 times. It winds up and then winds down and then winds up again. And yeah, so that happened. But yes, welcome to the Malthaus Games podcast, episode number 98. We are a podcast all about board games, card games, tabletop games, role-playing games, things of that sort.
And tornado sirens.
Apparently now tornado sirens, and we like to talk about beer on the show because we indulge in the occasional beer.
We do. And today we have a beer from Elk Valley Brewing Company. Delty, what do we have?
I'm going to pour it first since I opened it, so then I can move the bottle around more freely.
It is a Belgian-style beer, and you can tell this by the fancy bottle. I feel like a lot of fancy Belgian-style beers have that little bubble neck in the bottle.
They really do. A lot of times, too, they have the cork and cage. There's a certain term for that cage. Like, it has a specific name. I cannot remember it for the life of me.
Beer cage.
Also, this is a strange fact for the podcast. It's not often that we have a glass bottle of beer. 90% of the time,
that's right.
90% of the time, it's cans.
That is very true. And our second beer for the episode is a can.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. While you're pouring that, you want me to do my tornado siren impression again?
Please don't. I think twice is enough for the listeners' ears and mine.
Well, now they get the full Oklahoma experience.
No, yeah, they had twice. That's good.
Yeah.
So this is from Elk Valley Brewing Co., local here to Oklahoma.
I'm holding my glass 18 inches away from my face, and I smell it already.
Yeah.
That is a stout, strong smelling
It is
beer.
9.7% alcohol by volume.
Blessed.
It is called the Catechumens, is how I'm going to pronounce that.
Catechumens.
I don't know what it means.
It's catechumens.
You're just making stuff up.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you
I'm
are.
a recovering Catholic.
Okay, well, anyway, it's a Belgian-style triple. Yeah, look it up because I don't trust you. There's no other things on here except that it's a Belgian-style triple at that 9.7% alcohol by volume, which means this is one hefty beer.
A catechumen is a Christian convert under instruction before baptism, a young Christian preparing for confirmation.
The heck?
What is a catechumen in the Catholic Church? One receiving instruction in the principles of the Christian religion with a view to baptism, or, depending on the Catholic Church, to confirmation.
Okay, well, there you go.
Because you know what? I was a young whippersnapper catechumen at one point, went through 2 years of instruction before I was confirmed in the Catholic Church, and then ran like hell.
Okay, well, that makes sense then. Okay, well, hopefully this beer's not one we're running from, so. In terms of look, mine is a little cloudier than Haley's. I think I got more of the sediment on the bottom.
I think you did too.
Which is fine. It's got a nice, I'm going to say it's like an amber honey color. Not super bright yellow, but it's not necessarily golden, but it's like an in-between. It smells a little sour. Very strongly. There is a hop in there. I can't put my finger on the hop profile.
You know what it smells like? You know those gummy lifesavers, like the weird, opaque, yellow, white ones?
Yeah.
That's what it smells like.
A little bit. Ooh, it tastes like candy. It's so sweet.
It tastes like those lifesavers.
What the heck? That's not a standard Belgian triple, I
what
feel.
What in the hell? It tastes like the little... So, you guys know lifesavers, and they have like the gummy ones that you get around Christmas time. And there's that yellow, white, opaque, really like it does not look like an appetizing color, but it tastes kind of I think it's supposed to be pineapple. It's like
Yeah,
essence of something tropics.
yeah.
That's what this tastes like. And it's sweet.
It's nice and carbonated, has a good finish. It finishes a little drier than it is up front and in the middle, which is nice.
Yeah, I think you're expecting like a big mouthfeel and a big finish, but it cuts off pretty quick.
It does. It's pretty gentle.
My mouth is watering like crazy.
It is a strange sweet flavor. I'm like amazed at how sweet it is.
Is your mouth watering like crazy?
Mm, not too much, but your mouth gets some saliva after you swallow, and then after that it goes away. But it's so strange because most Belgian triples, they're light like this and they're strong, but they're normally not this like sweet sugary tasting to me. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't drink a lot of Belgian triples. I usually go for quads. Quads are where I live in the Belgian world.
Right. I feel like the longer you age a triple, the sweeter it gets. So it's like this one's been aged already. It doesn't seem as young.
Maybe so. I'm not sure. But I mean, that's a good beer though, and at 9.7%, this is too drinkable. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. For being such a strong beer, anybody could just take this and drink it very fast.
Well, I guess we should probably get to talking. We've been gushing about this beer for like the last 5 minutes. It feels like.
That's okay. I mean, it's what we do here. Yeah. So I finally got to play in my first Flesh and Blood tournament. First time playing outside the house, and only technically my what fifth or sixth time playing the game at all.
Mhm.
Like single because we only played a handful of times here at the house. So that was really cool. I built a deck, took it to Edmund Unplugged, and signed up for their tournament. And did terribly, lost all 4 rounds, which is fine. Learned a lot about how the game plays. The flow of the game became more crisp with people that have been playing it for like, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9 months now. So that was really nice. And then the community is really awesome. And I told Haley this, that I was surprised. Like I had the main guy who runs it, Adam, I had met a time or two through the board game community. Never really spent time with him, but I've interacted with him a couple times and met him several times. But I wore my mask because we're going to be leaving the state next week, and so I didn't want to take any chances there. I was one of 2 people that were masked at the tournament, even though vaccinated. But so he didn't recognize me at first, but the name then clicked, and I think he put it together. Anyway, after the games and everything, one guy that I played against, he played a card, and I was like, man, I was hoping I would have got one of those out of the booster box I opened, but I sadly didn't, and I said, that's a card I gotta get if I wanna make this deck work, and he was like, here, I've got an extra I don't need that I'm not playing with, and I was like, Dad, you don't have to do that, I mean, the card's only $6, but, like, I offered to pay him, and he just gave it to me. Another guy gave me another copy that he had an extra of the same card, so now I've got 2 of the max 3 I can have for the deck, and then almost everyone from their prize packs from the tournament, they kept, like, the Majestics, the expensive cards or the cards they needed, and then they just gave me all the other shit. So I got almost like a whole booster box of cards for free just because they're like, you're new. We have enough cards. We do this every week. And it's like, I just didn't know. I told them, I was, you guys have to stop being nice. And so I told Haley, I definitely have to go back now. And it was fun playing, but like the community, everybody was so nice. And you could tell when when I said like, hey, I'm super new, FYI, it might take me a second. And they were all helpful, and they'd point out, here's what I would have done, teaching me some things about the game, but also like patient with me and my thought processes, kind of pointing out some things that they would have done differently. So it was really nice. It was a learning experience. And honestly, what I told Brian, and he agreed, or I guess he mentioned it, and it was what I was thinking. Very different than any Magic event I've ever been to.
Yeah.
The Magic community has never been that kind and receptive to a newcomer. And walking in blind going, I don't know what to expect, but I just want to play the game and hopefully it's a good time playing, to then come out being like, oh wow, this is a really nice group. I'll come back and play a lot, hopefully. Wasn't what I expected. So it was a really good time. Very thankful for everybody giving me all those cards. And so now I'm going to spend some time today probably sorting them and stuff, but now I'm going to focus on building this deck better and building up a new deck with all the new cards I got.
Mhm.
So that was the main thing I've done.
And you also met one of my old friends there.
I did. I met Haley's his name's Austin, that she went to Europe with, like right out of high school. So 10 plus years ago.
Yep. God, yes. 12 years ago this year.
Yeah, and he was like, are you married to Haley? And I was like, the hell is happening? Why does everybody know my wife? And he was like, oh, I did this. We went to Europe. I follow her on Twitter and I recognized your last name. And we went, wait a minute. And I was like, all right, why? Why does everybody know? It's all like anywhere. We could go to any other state. Haley's like, oh, I recognize them. Like our time in San Antonio when you recognize the dude from your hometown. And I was like, why?
Yep. It was my parents' banker.
We're
I was-
8 hours away.
Always. And then when I was walking, so Thursday night, Delton dropped me off at the coffee shop down the street because the Lost Ogle, who I write for, they were hosting a trivia night down the street. And so after trivia night was over, I walked down to the board game shop where Delton was playing, and somebody stopped me in the street and said, "Hey, didn't you used to work and like do writing inside this coffee shop in Edmond?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Who do you write for?" I said, "The Lost Ogle." "Oh my God, I love your writing. I knew I recognized you." That was the first time I've ever been like recognized on the
God.
street for my writing. But yeah, all roads lead to Haley. It feels like.
That's what it feels like for sure. Aside from that, I can't think of too much that's happened.
You got your vasectomy.
My second vasectomy recovery's gone well. The first few days was worse than the first vasectomy. However, after about 4 or 5 days, it started being better than the first vasectomy. So at this point, let me see, this coming Tuesday. So after this episode drops, the Tuesday after will be the 2-week mark. We're recording this Saturday. It is significantly better right now than it was last time. But last time, maybe TMI, I had a bad hematoma that was taking extra care and ibuprofen and heating pad and all this stuff to get rid of. And this time I don't have that issue. So recovery's going better. I'm being more mobile. Very excited about that. Hopefully this time it sticks.
There's no TMI. We're all friends here.
That's true. But we're super excited because we leave out next Saturday to go to Oregon.
For Gen Con.
Yeah, JEN Con for our friend Jennifer, who is a Patreon supporter of this podcast. So thank you, Jennifer. And thanks to our other Patreon backers, Allison, Alan, Jesse, Catherine, and Cliff. Thank you all so much for supporting us on Patreon and keeping our podcast going and improving. But yes, we're going to go get to see Jennifer and her husband, Nick, and their amazing dog, Jasper. And several other friends. I believe we will get to see Alan at least once, which will be nice. And I don't know who else is going to be there, if we know them or not, but it's going to be a good time. It's a very low-key thing. So I'm excited about it. Got my vaccination card, going to be packed with my passport, and be ready to go.
I'm really excited. We've played a lot of games online with Jennifer and Nick.
Yep.
And I was telling my mom that we're going to Oregon. She goes, "Oh, how do you know them?" I said, "Well,
You don't.
I've never actually met them in real life." So, Mom, I'm meeting strangers from the internet, but they're not really strangers. They are very good friends of ours. And
Yes, because
I'm
I've
very
met
grateful.
Jennifer in person. I've stayed in a hotel room with Jennifer in person. She's awesome. Have not met her husband, Nick, yet, and you haven't met either one.
No.
But it's one of those things where, you know, the friend group we're part of and the fact that we've already met these people, everything's good.
I feel like I do know them, though.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm really excited to meet them in real life. And I hope that Jennifer's a hugger because I want to give her a hug.
Well, I'm sure she'll be fine with that as she listens to this and she's like, quit, stop it. But yeah, so we're doing that. Very excited to spend some days in Portland, getting some fun little outings, going hiking, getting to tour the Bob's Red Mill factory, eating a bunch of good food and playing games and just hanging out with people.
I just want an IV of Thai peacock pad Thai.
Right? That's just because we like Thai peacock.
Put it in my veins.
Exactly. But that's coming up.
Yeah, I think that's about all. It's been a pretty chill last 2 weeks because of your vasectomy, but also we've had a lot of good, happy things happening. A lot of things to look forward to. And we'll be back next episode with some stories.
We will. I've done nothing but play on the Switch in the meantime, so not really too much to say. But with all that, let's move into the game. Oh, here's the door. It's straight ahead. It's a game.
So this game of the episode is Mombasa.
The game of this episode, Mombasa. This game is published through the US by Ager Spiele. It is designed by Alexander Pfister, one of my faves, if not my fave. Illustrated by Clemens Franz, my fave, and Andreas Resch. Development, rulebook, and layout is Victor Kobilka, and rulebook revision is Neil Crowley. Mombasa is a game that's been sitting on my to-be-played shelf for 2 years?
2 or 3.
I picked it up on, I think, Super Sale at some point or something, and I've always wanted to play it because, again, Alexander Pfister, probably my favorite designer, and I was like, I want to play all of his games because I like all of them so far. Every time I play his games, I feel like I kind of get it. I don't feel like they're overly complex, but I enjoy the things he does that are different, blah, blah, blah. So Mombasa is one that we've had on the shelf and I've wanted to do it on the podcast, but I wanted to wait until what I felt was the right time because Mombasa is one of those games with a theme that can be taken. I'm going to say it is a problematic theme, and depending on the person, it can be a very seriously problematic or a very lightly problematic. It's going to kind of be up to opinion
I gotta
on.
say, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say it's kind of up to opinion on how you view it personally. However, I don't think you can say that it is not just in some way problematic. Does that make any sense at all?
It does. And I just have to say, from my perspective, I am happy that I won, but it felt really bad to win as a colonizer. I did not like that.
Which makes sense. So part of the reason that we're doing this game right now, as we'll get to in the topic, is we are potentially getting a retheme. But we will discuss that here coming up. So Mombasa, as it stands for the current version you can buy, is a 2 to 4 player game, ranges from an hour 15 minutes to about an hour and a half. No, I'm sorry, to a little over 2 hours, like 2 hours 10. Our 2-player game took us like an hour 35, hour 36. Didn't really have to look up many rules. Once we taught it, it's really not too complex of a game to learn. It's just that there's a lot to think about and different paths and ways to take. So Mombasa, I am going to read, because I think we should, the game and history section they put in the rulebook, just to give you an idea. It says, in Mombasa, players acquire shares of chartered companies based in Mombasa, Cape Town, St. Louis, and Cairo, which is all in Africa, and spread their trading posts throughout the African continent in order to earn the most money. Chartered companies were associations formed for the purpose of exploration, trade, and colonization, which linked them inextricably to the very dark chapter in human history, global colonialism. This period lasted roughly from the 15th century to the middle of the 20th century and is associated with exploitation and slavery. Although Mombasa is loosely set within this time frame, it is not a historical simulation. It is a strategy game with an economic focus that roughly refers to historical categories and places them in a fictional setting. The exploitation of the African continent and its people is not explicitly depicted within the gameplay. If you want to learn more about the underlying history, we recommend the following read, History of Modern Africa, 1800 to the Present, by Richard J. Reed, or Ride, however you pronounce his last name. So that kind of gives you a thought process of where the game's coming from. It's one of those, like, it may be set here, but it's not actually historical. It's not, but you can't look at it and not think about it a little.
It's the LaCroix of colonialism. There's an
Yes.
essence there.
There is an essence there, but it's enough that you're like,
This is uncomfortable.
Exactly. But with putting that aside, talking about the gameplay itself, the way Mombasa is going to play is a very interesting system, and I think this is the part of Mombasa that stands out the most to me and is something I really enjoy. Starting the game off, you have 3 action slots, and you'll have a hand of cards. You will pick 3 of those cards to place in your 3 action slots. Everybody reveals them at the same time, and then you take turns going around the table using an action based on what cards you put down. The cards can either be exploration cards, the bookkeeper, a gem merchant. I don't know if it's gem or diamond merchant in the rules. I think it's diamond merchant. Goods, which are either bananas, cotton, or coffee.
I think that's all of them.
So I think that's all the card types as well. So what happens is, depending on what you put down, depends on what you do, whether it's buying more cards to add to your hand. That way you have more and later in the game, better actions to do or more powerful actions. You can use your exploration cards to explore on the board. You can invest in the company's stock. Make sure you hold more stock in the different 4 companies of the game. You can use your bookkeeper to put more books in your ledger and try to move your inkwell down in those books. I guess that kind of represents, like, we fulfilled these goals business-wise, so we're moving down. These are all the books we've completed. We've done that, I guess, thematically. But basically, there's a track for that. There's a track for your diamond mines, all that kind of stuff. There's also some bonus actions you can take, like discarding a card to get money, if you have the most bananas in your action cards, when you take the bonus banana action, you can get more stock in a company, things like that. But what I like about it is you have to not only choose which cards to play, which you only get to play 3 every turn until you move far enough on the bookkeeping or diamond mine tracks to unlock the next 2 spaces. it's kind of a hard struggle to pick, like, well, what do I do? What do I focus on? How do I dedicate my time here? But I enjoy that. And what's even neater, those 3 cards that you put down are in a left, middle, and right slot. Once that turn is over, there are actually going to be 3 cards on the top of your little player board. You'll pick one of those up, and then the 3 bottom cards move straight up to the top of the board. I hope that makes sense visually. So bottom left goes to top left, bottom middle goes to top middle, bottom right goes to top right, and those cards stay there. At the end of every round, you'll pick another one of those stacks up. So the cards you place on the bottom will build tiny decks at the top, and I let one build to like 4 cards, and then had a turn where I did exploration for like 6 points of it, which is a lot. I mean, that's a 2 card, 2 card, 2 card. And so you can kind of pre-plan the later stages of the game early in an interesting way.
But it also keeps you from doing the same thing over and over again because you
Yes.
can't play. So whenever you're laying your books down, you have to fulfill the requirements to move on to the next book. So maybe you need 3 coffees and a banana, or 4 cottons and a person. And if you have multiple books that match the same criteria, then theoretically speaking, if you had 3 bananas and 3 cottons, and all of your books took bananas and cottons, you can move up all 3 books in one turn.
Hmm.
And so, that's really powerful. But in splitting up the cards, not allowing you to pick up the same resources each turn, it kind of puts one arm behind your back where you can't, keep doing the same play over and over and over again, and you have to pre-plan. It's a game that really rewards pre-planning.
It really does, because if you put like, let's say a 2 value coffee in the bottom right action slot and a 2 value coffee in the middle, then once those cards are used, both of those go to the top to different stacks. So when you pick a stack up, you won't get both of your coffees back. You'll get a single one of them. So it is interesting because, yeah, you can't keep chaining. Then it incentivizes you, I feel like, to buy new cards to be able to use and try to keep that going. It's a very interesting card planning mechanic, and honestly, I think it's my favorite thing the game does because I haven't seen that before. That's something new to me. It's interesting to me. It causes you to make decisions every single turn, and it causes you to also think about the outcome of those decisions at a later date. If I want to do this next turn, which of these stacks, if I pick it up, can benefit me the most in doing so? And you start to have these multiple decisions based off of simply where I played these cards.
Mhm.
And I really enjoyed that about it. One of the other big elements of this game is with these 4 companies around the board, they all have stocks. So that means there are tracks that you move a little token up showing how many stocks you have in that company. As somebody explores or uses their exploration points, it removes trading posts to put on the board, and every trading post that gets removed uncovers something, either blanks or a coin. That's the value of the company per stock. So as you move up the track, like at the end of the game last night, I think you had 8 stock. You had 7, and you had 6, and I had 7. That's what it was. You had 6 stock in Cape Town or Cape Cod, or I don't remember. I think it's Cape Town, the red company. I know Cape Cod's Massachusetts. You had 7 stocks. I had 8 stocks, so I only beat you by 9 points in that one stock, which if you weren't that high on the track, then I would have had like a massive amount of points. But there's 4 companies that you can do that and try to get stocks in each. And when you explore, you're not dedicated to a single company. You can pick any company to do that for. Instead of buying cards, you can raise your stocks in a company and you can spread it out between any of them because you're playing an investor in this game, not one of the companies itself. So that's kind of an interesting thing, but it led me and Haley last night to Haley trouncing me and me sadly being very upset by it because, and it's probably my one negative for this game outside of theming, which is I'm very much a multiplayer solitaire or direct conflict, right? I'm not a huge fan of direct conflict in games, but I would rather my actions directly influence yours or me do all my own shit and your stuff doesn't mess with me. But in this game, if you spend time exploring with the company and making their stock valuable, well, that just means everybody's going to jump in on what you've been working hard for and be able to get stock in that company to make a lot of points, which is what Haley did. Given, yes, in the process of expanding that company out onto the board, you are getting benefits that anybody else will miss out on. But in the end, you can just essentially mooch off other people's hard work. By not mooching, I say that, it's just because I'm frustrated about it.
And because I'm giving him a look.
Yes. Essentially, you can put you can put less work in than I did to have close to the same outcome, right? In that track.
You can. I didn't though, because I like my coffee. Like my coffee was
Mhm.
as high on the track as your bananas.
Yeah.
It's just that I also tagged along on your bananas where you didn't also tag along on my coffee. So I had built one up
Essentially.
and I also built up the cotton as well. Um, so I had built up these other areas.
Oh, I see. They're not directly tied to that. You're just thinking the bonus actions. Those are tied to the companies.
Well, I meant like I also like I had put houses out for cotton, houses out for coffee. I had
Well, what I'm saying is the houses aren't directly tied to the resource. They're just tied to the color. You put houses
well,
out
yeah,
for the white and you put houses out for the orange.
I know, but that's I mean, but the orange is quote unquote the coffee area. The white is like the cotton area. Like that's what it's like. That's what the specials are kind of related to.
Oh, because there's the 4 bonus actions for
Yeah,
the 4 resource
yeah.
types. What was the last resource type for Mombasa, the black company?
I don't remember. I really don't remember.
Because they're only tied by bonuses. But
And
anyway, so the white company,
yeah,
the orange company, you had moved up some on the
I had moved
tracks.
up. Yeah, and the orange one, like I had moved up just as much as you had
Yeah.
Cape Cod, the red one. It's just or Cape Town, whatever.
Mhm.
But it's just that I had also tagged along on yours. So it's not that I was just waiting for Dalton to move up the track and I just like
No,
rode his
but the
coattails.
very last turn of the game, that's exactly what you did was go, I'm going to bump up the track as much as you. And I
But
was like, God damn it.
before the last turn, like the third or fourth turn, I was already tied with you on that track.
You were. I was hoping I could spend the money and that you were going to be doing something else and I could get a decent amount ahead and it just wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
Anyway, what it comes down to is I only don't appreciate that mechanic.
Yeah.
But this is a 2-player game.
Yeah.
For me personally, in a 2-player game, that feels worse than in a 4.
Mhm.
Because in a 4-player game, if I start doing red, everyone jumps on red. Cool. If someone starts doing white, everybody can turn and do white. But in a 2-player game, it just feels like it's me versus you. So then if I do something and you start taking advantage and then I do something else and it feels like you take advantage rather than, you know what I mean? But I think part of that is as well, I was trying to do my own thing and not take advantage of what you were doing because I wanted to try to push myself ahead in other ways. And it just failed. In the end, I had a bad strategy. But it sucks and I don't like that.
I'm going to say something. I don't know if it's going to make you feel better or worse.
Okay.
Even if I would have not ridden,
Oh, you would have
gone
won.
up, I still would have won. Even if I would
Yeah,
not have pursued the
Yeah, no, that
Cape
makes
Town.
it worse.
Okay.
That makes it worse, yeah. Because I know, because she won with 188 points versus my 112, and that was with her gaining like 54
54.
points off of that track.
So even if I would have got no points from that track,
you still would have
I
won.
still would have won.
But I was hopeful in my brain without doing math. The problem is your bookkeeping track. You exploded that last turn
My book smarts.
and ran up like 3 or 4 books, which took you up another like 20 some points.
That was my biggest strategy was
Yeah.
the first like 2 or 3 turns I really didn't do a lot, but I was setting up to where
Yeah.
in 3 turns I gained about 60 points in books because I would try to chain books together.
Now the game does only run 7 rounds. So it's not like you have a ton of time for everything. So it is a game where you're going to end going, I didn't get to do everything I wanted, which I feel like that's most games of this style, but there is that. So yes, I think in the end, without going into too much detail of all some of the, other extra stuff that you can do, in the end, I do really enjoy the game. I just get frustrated at that part of the style. I think a 4-player game would feel better.
Mhm.
I do. I think it would be a little easier to manage. Also, though, I get frustrated when you win every time, which is why the last ad, I was so excited to make that song. If you have not listened to my social media ad from last episode 97, about Oracle of Delphi, you should go check it out because it's freaking great, and I had a good laugh making that. Anyway,
It was great.
It was great.
Right.
Anyway, yes, I think that I do really enjoy the game. I think it was really neat and interesting. I enjoyed that the tracks weren't just, aside from the investing in the companies, you could just strictly spend your resource points to do that. However, like the diamond track took extra work, the bookkeeping track took extra work. If you're trying to up the value of a company, it takes a little, like everything takes a little work, but the main mechanic of playing the cards to do it is what I liked the most.
Yeah.
So in general, I think it's a very good game. I see why people like it so much. But that comes down to the theme being bad.
Hey, what can I get you?
I'd like a topic.
Any special way?
Make it a top shelf topic.
Coming up. Enjoy. But before we get into the theme, let's crack open another beer.
So the second beer for this episode is Trop Top Passion Fruit Pale Ale from Mother's Brewing Company, which is out of Springfield, Missouri.
I remember going into that brewery and hanging on the wall as you're checking out is the layoff letter of the founder. Like he has the letter framed where he got laid off from work, and then that's whenever he started the Mother's Brewing Company.
That's right, yeah. So this says tropical aromas of guava and citrus hops, juicy passion fruit, light malt sweetness, and refreshing dryness. Let me see if I can read. I like the look of the can, but it's a little tough to read. Pounds of hops used for bitterness is 2. Pounds of hops used for flavor and aroma is 120. And total pounds of hops per 60 barrel batch is 122.
And this is courtesy of our friend Cody.
This is courtesy of Cody. His family's from Missouri, and they go through Missouri, I feel like, decently often.
Mhm.
Not super often.
Go to Bolivar.
They go to Bolivar, which is where his family's from.
No, I was really concerned about pairing this beer with the Belgian beer. So I didn't think the flavors would match, but being that this one's tropical and the last one tasted like that pineapple gummy, I think this is going to be a good follow-up. I always hate it, like, whenever we pick out our beers, I try to pick out 2 beers that kind of go together because I do not want to have a sour followed by a stout because those 2 flavors do not go well on the palate.
Right, you kind of have to pick what you do.
Yeah, so I was a little apprehensive about this pairing, but I think ultimately, by the descriptors, it's going to go pretty well.
And this is a 6% alcohol by volume.
Blessed. Smells like pineapple, but this one smells like actual pineapple, not the Lifesaver gummy pineapple.
It's supposed to be passion fruit.
Well, it smells like pineapple.
It's very golden blonde, cloudy. It does smell like pineapple. It does dry out at the back end.
It tastes like that lilikoi, that what is it? The Hawaiian Sun lilikoi. We've had the strawberry lilikoi on the podcast, but we just had the lilikoi a couple weeks ago.
Bear with me here.
Huh?
This might be getting a little too adult.
Oh God!
It won't be getting too adult.
Is this PG-13 or
it's
where
probably
are we going?
PG-13.
Where are we going with this? Is it going to make the beer unappetizing?
No, it tastes like a CBD gummy.
Oh my God!
I guess that's not bad. CBD is not anything. So
yeah.
My freaking mom uses CBD gummies sometimes. They don't help me, but this is what it tastes like. It freaking tastes like that to me.
Tastes like a CBD gummy, yeah.
Which is weird, and it's only in the aftertaste.
It really does. Oh my God. It's like that brief, like split-second aftertaste. It's a CBD gummy.
Yeah, that's what I get from it, which is weird. Aside from that, though, it is nice and good. It's fruity, refreshing, and it does dry out the back. It does have like a very dry finish, which is strange. Like my mouth's not watering. It's not, like it almost feels like I need another drink now. But that's pretty good.
Wild.
It's not bad at all. But with that beer being done, I do like that from Mothers. With that beer being done, our topic today is retheming of games, or retheming. Because, as we discussed with Mombasa, the theme's a little problematic.
It deals a lot with the diamond trade, and there's a documentary series called Explained on Netflix, which comes out every Friday.
They're like 20, 25-minute episodes.
Yeah, and they had one recently on the diamond trade, specifically in the late 1800s, early 1900s in South Africa. And it kind of goes into the history of diamond mining as well as the atrocities that it inspired, like the blood diamonds, the wars over them, people being murdered, people being exploited for the diamond trade. And so it's especially, we just watched that episode a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And, coming into this game with that further understanding of what the diamond trade really did to the continent of Africa and is continuing to do, it was difficult to enjoy the theme of this game. I mean, on top of that, it's colonizing, which is not a good thing at all. You have all of these French names. You have these English names. Like, those aren't the names of these places in Africa.
Right.
They're the names they were bestowed upon them.
Yeah.
But it's just really, I don't know, like, the more that I play games and the more that we reflect on the history that is still affecting today, it's really difficult to enjoy games with themes like this.
And I think that's completely understandable. When I was playing the game, it was one of those things where I was wrapped up in trying to figure out how to do good, how to do this and that. So the theme, to me, didn't come out. This is one of those games where the theme does not feel directly tied to mechanic. Like,
it doesn't.
It does, like, in terms of that. Like, if you took it out of Mombasa and just put I don't know, we're fish in a coral reef trying to find new homes. You could make the exact same game with very minor modifications it would just be the theme. You could tweak it and be done, and it would be a different game with a non-problematic theme very easily. So for me, uh, the theme didn't stand out as badly because to me it wasn't as in your face, but that might be just because of how focused I was because I was having a hard time figuring out how to lose.
Well, it was very difficult for me because, like, if you notice on
Mhm.
the cards are mostly white people. No, it's the
Unless they're
very
the workers carrying
unless they're the
bananas
workers came
or
in, and then
yeah,
at that point, they're not on the cards, they are in the background.
correct,
They
yeah,
and it's the main which you're not assigned a character or anything like that, but, like, the book worker, it's a white dude with blonde hair and glasses,
yeah,
and it's the same for, the explorer. It's a white dude with a brown mustache.
yeah,
Like, it's very much the white people are the central characters in this, which makes it
for sure.
I know that they said in the description, like, they were careful to say, like, "This is not supposed to be historical, like, if you wanna learn about it,
Yeah,
here's this," but it's hard not to tie in the atrocities, even though you're just
for
taking
sure.
parts from the
Mhm.
history, it's still there, and it's still in a way, it feels like it's still being exploited.
Oh, 100%. It's one of those things where I mean, to try to make an example that's easy for my brain to come up with on the spot, if you made a game about something in early 1940s Germany, but it had nothing to do with Nazis, there's no way you couldn't say these bits and pieces are obviously, you know what I mean?
Right,
There's a connection to it that you can't look past. Like it's never going to be void of that.
right,
You can't completely pull something like that out of a theme when it's so connected. And I
right.
think that that's the thing here in Mombasa. Yes, the theme is applied pretty lightly, but like no matter what, if you're like, yeah, it's about, investing in companies that are expanding into Africa and mining for diamonds at this time period, then immediately your reaction's probably like, oh,
Because right now, the light theme feels like whitewashing.
it kind of does. It kind of does. I mean, I'm glad they addressed it up front of the rule book, game and history. It's not tiny, it's not on the back page. That's better than not addressing it, and I'm glad that they even said, "We're not depicting slavery, we're not depicting the atrocities." So they at least tell you that, but it feels like, "We still wanna use this, but we're just not gonna do that, FYI. Here you go, have fun." And it's like, it could be better.
Right. Because, like,
Which
you can think about there's a million different ways to show land management. There's a million different ways to show investing. Like, there's a million different ways to, you know,
yeah,
show learning or go up different tracks. And so I think what Delton said, like, this game could exist without the theme. So why use the theme?
exactly, and part of that is you never know what the designer designed in mind. And publishing companies, and I've been told this before, and I know you have too, we've talked about that before, that publishing companies have final say on what the theme is of a game. So they can change things around to make them their whatever they want. However, who knows how it initially began, things like that. And part of the reason that I've chose Mombasa now to do, and part of the reason I know alluded to that in the game talk, and part of the reason we wanted to do retheming as the topic is not only because this is a theme that, while not being, trying to be a historical reenactment, it's still problematic and it still has ties to things that are terrible and really don't need to be in board games unless they're being presented with a super historical like, you know what I mean? If it's
For the purpose of learning.
exactly, if it's for the purpose of learning or something, it would be a different idea coming out, a different topic.
But
But
this is flavor.
exactly. And so one of the reasons I wanted to do this game though is earlier this year, some people, and I don't remember their channel name, did a video on a designer series of Alexander Pfister. They talked about Mombasa. And in the video, they talked about the theme being an issue, which again, that's what we're talking about. And Alexander Pfister actually commented on that himself, the designer, and even said that he wasn't a fan of the theme in the beginning and didn't want it. Now, is that true or not? I don't know. We can, hope that that's the best intention, that yes, that was the idea. Maybe he had a different theme and they tweaked it and moved it to here. I don't know. But somebody put it on a Board Game Geek thread. It was early January, and he actually commented again and said, yes, I really, really would like to change the theme and also add new stuff. This might happen this year. Unfortunately, I can't say any more, so this will be my last post in the thread. That sounds like something's under the works. So everyone is pretty confident we will be getting a retheming of Mombasa, which hopefully means with the way the industry's going, with the way people are starting to say we don't want colonization games, we don't want games that skirt addressing the real issues, things like that. It's likely that we're going to be getting a retheme of Mombasa, taking these game mechanics and maybe a few small changes and putting them on something fresh and clean that will be easy for everyone to learn. So part of what I wanted to talk about is, would this be a game we would consider purchasing the new version, or is this a game that isn't good enough to warrant a new version anyway?
And I think there's multiple things to consider. Is the game good enough? But also, was it so bad that you don't want to support it in the future? Because I know I
Yeah.
always go back to Sky Traders. I just like crap all over Sky Traders. I'm sorry. I'm going to do that forever. Sky Traders, the theme was so bad. The graphic design was so racist and so sexist. I don't care if they rethemed it to the most adorable cat game in the world. I will never buy that game.
Yeah.
I will not support that company. I will not support whosever idea it was to
Oh, it
have
was a
that game.
Fantasy Flight game.
Oh, it was trash. I'm sorry. That was trash.
Yeah.
And so if that was rethemed, I would not. No.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But now Mombasa, that's hard because, they were mindful in the description. They were mindful, learn more about it this way. They are recognizing that it's bad and that they might be doing a retheme. And so, personally, for me, I would consider getting a new one if the theme was better.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the game. They were mindful in the beginning. Was it perfect? No. But also, that's me. I'm also coming at this from a white perspective.
Of course.
And so, I can't speak for everyone. And if others disagree and say, no, this is as bad as Sky Traders, I'm going to totally respect that.
Yeah.
This is just my perspective.
Yeah. It's going to be up to the individual.
Yes.
100%.
But Sky Traders can burn in hell.
And that's fine, because they did have some problems for sure. I do think, because this one, Mombasa's rated very highly on Board Game Geek. It's a very beloved game by a lot of people that enjoy heavy Euro games. So I could see that a retheme, there's going to be a lot of people who won't have a problem. A lot of people will buy the older copy because it's likely cheaper. They're going to buy the older copy unless because he said also add new stuff. If he tweaks mechanics a bit and improves the game, it will sell. But then here becomes the big question. I guess maybe even begs the question. Are they going to do this because it's right or because of money? Because yes, board game designers and board game companies don't make a fortune. However, if a game like Mombasa is this big, I mean, it really is. I think on Board Game Geek, it might still be in the top 100, and it's been there since it came out. I mean, it's a solid game. People really like it. But there's people that have avoided buying it because of the theme. Those people will now give the game a shot if they feel that it's justified and that they truly have tried to right the wrong of doing a not so great theme. And so there's going to be people that will stick with the old one, and there's going to be people buy the new one. So is it strictly that viewpoints are now being changed? People are starting to realize colonialism in games and stuff like that is not really a theme people want, isn't great? Or is it that they're seeing an opportunity to make money? I don't know. I'm going to be hopeful that it's not for the money. I mean, obviously, every board game that comes out, money has to be part of that conversation, right?
Right.
No matter what you do in your life, if you're making money for it, that you have to consider, I want to make a living. But I'm hoping that this is all coming from a good place of people still like my game, but people aren't playing it because they don't like the theme. I want to let them enjoy it and also correct that I think this is now wrong. Whether they thought that in the beginning or not, minds can change. And as long as they do right from there on with the new version, then I think that that's, appropriate. I think that that's fine, but I'm going to be hopeful that it's for the right reasons.
But I think that also comes back to, our power as consumers.
Yeah.
If we don't buy the problematic games, which we kind of did, but I don't think we realized how bad it was at the time. But if we don't buy which that's no excuse, was we did buy it. It's no excuse.
Part of it too, though, is if you don't discover it for yourself, nobody around has this on their board game library to play.
Yeah.
At a cafe. This isn't one of the games you can just pull down and play at Edmund Unplugged.
Right.
I had to either go online and watch videos, or I had to play it myself to truly get the feel and truly be able to analyze, okay, this is how I feel about it. Because there are games that just from the cover, you're going to say no, or you're going to say, I'm not sure. And the I'm not sure takes further diving, and also this was years ago that I bought it.
Right, and, like, you're not going to I mean, you see a board game and you don't automatically maybe we should look at the theme and be like, "Okay, what is this theme? What does this mean?" Like, we just saw, "Oh, this is highly rated on Board Game Geek. Let's buy it."
Yep,
But, I mean, that goes to show also as consumers, the purchasing power that we have can make changes.
for sure.
I mean, so I'm about to get, like, real technical here for a second, but we ultimately do kind of control what goes on in the market. If we don't buy it, it's not made.
Yeah,
And so, if we're not buying the sky traders of the board game industry, if we are not, buying these games that are really sexist, really racist, use colonialism, they're eventually, theoretically speaking, not going to be made because we are in a very capitalistic society, and yes, there are considerations that I know can make us make games more popular, or there's also uh, systemic issues that kind of maintain the status quo. But, the power that we do have is, what companies are we going to support and what games are we going to support and what games are we going to invest in?
yep.
And so I think we just need to keep that in mind. Just because the game's out there doesn't mean we have to buy it. We did buy this and I feel kind of bad about it. And I also, like I said, it did not feel good to win as a colonialist. And I really kind of don't want to play this again because it didn't feel very good.
Well, one of the things to keep in mind too, and I say this a lot, and I say it with good intention. Um, Whoever put the theme on the game is not the only person that benefits from the game as well.
That's true.
We're supporting the editors, the artists, the writers, the publishers, the people making the printing who are making a living based on this game. Yes, we don't want to see this. And given I bought this old, I don't remember if I bought it used. I think I bought it new, but like it was on sale. I don't remember any of that. But like now, if somebody came out with a new game and this was brand new, I would say no. But people change. Our minds change. Our ideas change. We discover things about ourselves. We're just now 30. My coworker
Hey,
was
you're
talking
30.
about yeah, that's true, you'll be 30 soon. My coworker was talking about being 23 and how different she was from 21, and I said, "Just wait. When you hit 27, 25-year-old you is gonna feel like a child." You grow and you change, and we're in that critical stage. When I was buying a lot of these board games, that wasn't on my mind. I wanted to play a fun board game. People said this was good, I'm gonna buy it. The older I've gotten and the more I'm a little in touch with I don't wanna say society because I don't do anything, but the more I'm in touch with, like, listening to people and talking to people and realizing, "Oh, we need to be better as humanity," it starts to point these things out to me. So, as a person, I've grown in a way in which Mombasa's not a game I would buy today.
Right.
There's games I have to choose and decide. I said the most recent acquisition that could be troublesome is Maracaibo that we did. And Maracaibo, speaking of Alexander Pfister and Retheme, is fixing to get an expansion called the Uprising, where it turns the tables to where you play the indigenous peoples, I believe, of the Caribbean rather than the colonializing.
Colonizers?
Thank you, from England, France, and Spain. So it kind of starts to shift that outlook. Um, it just takes growing, changing, learning, and finding your own line. And whether that's perfect or not, that's up for you to decide. And, you know, not everyone's going to be the same, but it's just try to do better. And I think that's where we're at in life right now,
Yeah.
right? My board game purchasing now is going to be a game like this I probably wouldn't pick up right now.
Yeah.
I would want to play it because it's Alexander Pfister and people say it's good. And I might play it somewhere like at BGG Con or something, but I wouldn't go out and spend $50 on it.
Right.
It's just one of those.
It's hard because I think, the older that we get, the more we are invested in more values-based living.
Yeah,
Like we're finding ourselves not only, learning about what's important to us, but learning about, what's important to society and
correct.
our place in it. And, this is just a board game, but in investing in themes like this and pursuing things like this, what does that maintain in society? That this is okay.
Yeah.
And I think that this is just a time for this conversation went like a lot longer and a lot more deep than I was expecting.
I thought it might. I really did.
Yeah. And this game is a good learning experience for both of us too.
For sure. For sure. It really is. And this is one of those things that when a game like this happens, it makes me appreciate when it's done right.
Yes.
And I know that I look to Pax Pamir a lot with Cole Worley because Pax Pamir did such a good job kind of turning on its head that outlook, presenting it from a different perspective. I'm very excited for his next game, which I backed on Kickstarter, early this year, like January or something. John Company Second Edition, which is about the East India Trading Company. And the way he presents his ideas and the way he wants to present it for an educational purpose, but also try to turn the game to where it's not promoting certain ideas. I just it's one of those he's one of those designers I want to support in his endeavors to do it right. And so it's just one of those things. But yes, this was a little bit deeper talk than I thought it would be, but I also kind of half expected it. But I'm glad we had the talk. I think it's worth discussing. And Mombasa's it's a good game, and I'm glad it's getting a retheme because I think more people will be able to discover it and also like it. And I'm glad to see companies that are these European companies, which tend to be the highest percentage of companies that are making games like this. They tend to come from Europe. Seems to be kind of the trend. It's nice to see them seem to be starting to willing to make a change and understanding that we want that change.
Workers own the means of production.
There you go.
Workers also can determine the market.
Yes.
Use your purchase power wisely. In this manifesto, I will.
Exactly.
And so that brings me to my next question, Delton.
And now, join us for a Malthaus Games podcast special, Pint-Sized Question.
So what is your question for us this episode so we can wrap up?
What board game would you retheme, and what would you retheme it to?
That's a really tough question because, you know, the games I have I enjoy, and I tend not to be like, that's a really tough one. Because I'm trying to think of a game that I'm just like, either the theme is something I want to be different so I can play it, or a theme that just to me kind of goes blah, and I would like to see a different version so it would be improved upon. That's a really tough one. Do you have an answer for that?
I do.
What is it?
So you know the board game Festival of a Thousand Cats?
Yep.
I would retheme it to Festival of a Million Cats.
Okay. It's not a real answer, but I guess I'll take it.
More kitties.
Oh my god, I don't think we need that.
Yes, we do.
That's an unnecessary amount.
Lies and propaganda.
That is still one of the cutest games in the world to me.
It really is.
I'm so glad.
I just love you can drink if you drink too much sake.
You throw up your
You
fish.
throw up your fish. Like if you drink just enough sake, your points go up like crazy. If you drink too much, then you're gonna throw up everything.
Right. I think for me, I'm gonna say Istanbul. Istanbul's a very good game. It's like a good level between introductory and like intermediate. I feel like it rides that middle ground of adding a little bit more than an introductory game, but not being too complicated. But, you know, we've talked about this before. 88 depictions of people in this game, and they're all men.
Yeah.
That's kind of an issue.
We literally have not played this game since we discovered that, since we realized that.
We haven't, and it's a great game. I think I even have Mocha and Bakshish, the expansion that adds coffee. And I think it was Shut Up and Sit Down that pointed that out to me. And they talked to the publisher company, and they even said that like, well, their idea was in Istanbul, their idea of society was that men run the businesses and stuff like that. That the women don't have that big of a part. But even the background characters just walking around are also men, and it's like it's not just men in the country of Turkey. There are women there, I promise you. There are even children there. There are no children. There are no elderly. It's all the same age, like middle-aged man. And I would love to see that rethemed to something good because it's a fun game. It is a solid, good game. But I just haven't touched it because, like, I have to find a line of where I'm going to play something or where I'm not going to play something. And I haven't come around to playing Istanbul because every time I look at it, I go, meh. And then I look at something else and go, yeah. And that's where I'm at. So do better. That's
the theme of this episode. Do better. That's for us too.
It's for everybody. I mean, it's a learning process. You got to find what you're comfortable with, and your gaming group is comfortable with. And I think that that's where your own line is. There's always room for improvement. Always room for improvement. That's probably should be my final say.
Always room for improvement. Keep learning, my friends.
Progress, not perfection. That's my personal motto.
Progress, not perfection.
It shouldn't be, but it is. Man. Well, I think that really wraps up everything we wanted to discuss today. I feel like the episode went a little bit long, likely, but I know there's some gaps where we had to do stuff. So we'll see what the length is when I'm done editing.
That's what she said?
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess so. But yeah, so thank you so much for tuning in to the Malthaus Games podcast, episode number 98. Hopefully this gave you a little outlook on Mombasa, and if you're like me, you're looking forward to the Retheme. You want to see what they've done differently and hope it's one worth picking up so we can get it on the table, test out how it plays, and hopefully play with 4 people. That way I don't feel so butthurt about you mooching off of my progress.
Who won?
Shut up. Margie won, okay? Oh, she's asleep. She's so cute. Little
that
sausage.
Little sausage dog.
Little, big sausage. But anyway, yes, so thank you for tuning in and listening. If you have any questions for us, any comments, concerns, you can always send us an email to contact@malthausgames.com. You can also send us anything about games you think we need to look at, topics you want us to cover, questions you want us to answer, or if you know that there's a beer that distributes to Oklahoma and you're like, hey, this is my favorite beer. Can you guys please, I want to hear your thoughts on it. Let us know and we'll go find a place that sells it and pick it up. So that's always something as well. You can also find us on social media at Malthaus Games. You can find me personally at Delton Brack, and you can find Haley at
SQUIRRELYGEEK.
that is at Squirrely Geek. One of the things I wanted to mention is as of right now, even though we don't have passes, we are planning BGGCon in November in Dallas. It's kind of going to depend, I think, on if they even still hold it with the Delta variant. We're not 100% sure.
We're hopeful. We're cautiously optimistic.
We are cautiously optimistic. We have a hotel reserved with our good friend Alan, supporter of the podcast. So we've got our spot there. We'll be looking at passes here in the next couple weeks after we finish refinancing the house. And once, I don't know, we're just keeping an ear out. We're going to keep our own feelers out, see how everything goes, see how we feel, and make that decision more official, or I guess make a more definitive decision on it later on. But for now, we are planning that, if that's something you will be attending.
Yes, if you are, feel free to reach out to us on social media. Maybe we can play a game together.
For sure.
Have a beer together.
100%.
Let's have fun together.
Because we're going to be playing a lot of games, and they can also have Postmates deliver beer in Texas. So
Amen to that.
we will be getting that done for sure. Is there anything else we're missing?
I
We
don't
already
think
did our
so.
Patreon shout outs. We've done all that other stuff. I've got to go do a load of dishes, and then I'm going to start sorting some cards, I think,
Yeah.
is my most likely plan. So I guess that works. So until next time, sit back, relax, grab a drink, and play some games. We'll see you folks later.
Goodbye.
Bye.